Ya basta. Enough already. The Zapatistas, of which my heart recognizes and reckons with, shouted in their fight against killing in the name of existence. Indeed, ya basta. Enough already of this. Modern, westernized world leaders, shortened and hypocritical memory vampires, grabbing a future that is not theirs alone, forging new historical narratives, rendering the other, always there is an other, bloodless with their bloodlust. Insatiable practice of placing insurgents and dissidents into the burned pages of yesterday, where resistance meets certain deaths of culture, of claim, of knowing, of being, and this begets another Death Star in the name of man or myth or martyr or reality show monster. A type of man never humbled nor compliant to the general rules of humanity. Flannery O'Connor, good Catholic Southern Gothic writer, pens a story in 1953 titled A Good Man is Hard to Find. A short piece filled with sexism, racism, ageism, the underpinnings of religious retribution and reconciliation, threaded through a narrow lens of specific grace, the selfless but self-centered kind of grace we so often witness today, 70 years after this specific story, the climax of which is mass murder. The misfit aside, violence does not always follow violence. For what is it when all have died? The violence then resides in the forgetting. What can a civilization call its future if the past is unrecognizable? And already the future is past, rifled with narrators filling spaces with lies that feel like truth. Ya basta. Enough already. In this Sisyphus praxis, it defeats even the best of us, for what hands clasp? Machete, gun, flag, treaties, stick, rock, torch, to undo the doing. What fight remains when the core of civilization, I argue the women, in plural, are descended upon by a battalion of appointed judges that see little difference in land grabs or pussy grabs? It's all under eminent domain. I think of Chernobyl and the years of not knowing, awaiting final consequence, the rush of implosion preceding the slow trickle of despair and unclaimed deaths, millions of wombs condensed into a cauldron, stirred by the hands of men. The need for men such as these to insert themselves, demand entrance, to rupture the core of us, women. To claim responsibility, an otherwise unfathomable task, accountability that is, of saving the human race from the evils of women. The womb, some kind of siren, a disempowering tool that must be fought, lest men fall prey. And so, just as their God and first man Adam did to Eve, placed all that vitriol and blame onto centuries of women ever after, they prayed in secret and encoded public lies to regain this narrative. Ya basta. It has been decided throughout history that the surest way to gain power is to destroy the tethering of a collective to reality. Reality being ways of life, ways of being. So decimate the women. Rape, still, kill the women. The untethered reality pulsing with inconsolable sorrow has proven time and time again to surrender. When the spirit of women breaks, the true siege can begin. We hear today of losing democracy, of this republic called America, the original sin built upon the losses of women and territory and culture. Eradication of more than just women, obviously, or maybe not. This poem doesn't presume you know history or fact from fiction. This poem asserts it is the ungluing, the undoing of the matriarch that burns the longest. A fire that hasn't gone to unresurrected ash for 238 years, officially. But in history, who's counting? The eugenics movement inflicted involuntary sterilization on thousands of women of color, sanctioned by state and feds alike. And from 1973 to 1976, and many other undocumented years to be certain, a study by the US General Accounting Office found that IHS in regions across the country, IHS, the Indian Health Service, sterilized 3,406 Indian women without their consent and often without their knowledge. Can you imagine going to the doctor for a checkup and leaving without a part of your body? Have you watched the troublesome, problematic, yet highly rated and viewed Yellowstone? How many of you? Yellowstone? Where Beth, a wealthy white teen girl, is taken to get an abortion, all hush-hush and shameful, and her older brother and male doctor decide to sterilize her. Did you cry for her? Beth is a middle-aged woman, carries a palpable rage that is acted upon time and time again against her brother. And reviewers and watchers alike understand her pain, her hatred, just this one individual character in a fucking television show. Today, far-reaching ghostly cocks of the past are deciding a woman's future, body autonomy. But don't get it twisted. Overturning Roe isn't the endgame. It doesn't serve for the woman's body to be sacred, to be authentically revered or protected. Ya basta. Reading The Handmaid's Tale in 1986 in an English high school classroom was tedious, annoying, and offensive. Because what bullshit? Women fought to vote, to have credit cards, to abort, to sign their own legal documents, to be professionals, and to be equal to men. Those times of irrational, unfair, sexist, gender-conforming, glass-ceiling, blah, 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 long ago. Long enough to forget, long enough to naively trust that generations of stronger, more empowered women could deny the old narrative, could bring the patriarchy to its knees in submission. Only in bubble communities, certain places of academia, certain communities and political-minded hubs, the rest of this country was already planning a long game, co-conspirators signaling to one another under and beneath the blanket of godliness and goddesses. I know the public consumption of statistics, such as 1 in 4 women will be or have been sexually assaulted. Statistics reporting a fraction of the decentering, decoring of the goddesses among us who endure such consequences of storied, quantifiable information from an often unreliable narrator. Ya basta. Before the stake is placed and the fire is lit. If I were to speculate, and a woman often does, those fucking emotions wreaking havoc, once all women with working wombs are gone, will man turn to machine? Will artificial intelligence, neo-technologies delete us from future history? Even on the edges, this idea seems preposterous, yes? Yes. So does blood quantum-like practices for vaginas. What binds a woman to history other than the power and fragility between our legs? Now it's your turn to incorrectly use the term ya basta. Enough already with this one-sided attempting to be didactic and direct, but witty and sincere. This poem is shamefully impotent. Thank you.